Hello friends, it's time for another kind of quick routine day. This one is going to be totally different than the last. I am going to be featuring this Laura Geller The Best of the Best Baked Full Face Basics palette. So I have my Laura Geller powder foundation. I'm going to use that, but this is like all the other steps. It's got bronzer, 2 different highlighters that she's very famous for, a baked blush, 3 eyeshadows. All right, it's all in one little palette, and I often see this go on major sale on her website. I know Laura Geller is available on QVC, and you will find some cool sets from time to time on there, but she also is frequently doing like a 40% off or more thing on her own website. That 40% tends to be on everything, so you can save a lot of money on like that palette. They sell it in combination with a Baked, Balance, and Brighten. They sell it as part of several different bundle deals. So my advice is, if you're interested in this at the end of this video, don't pay full price for this product because it's on sale a lot. But I wanted to test that out as a whole as part of a makeup look. I've used bits and pieces of it. There are certain products in there that I'm very familiar with, but I wanted to use it all, kind of see how easily my look came together today, how much I like the look. Only my skincare is on right now, and I'm going to work in a few other Laura Geller things as I have them. So I do have her Spackle Primer. This is the original called Ethereal Rose Glow, so I'm just going to pop a little bit of this on. Get all primed. Yes, this does give like a very, very softly glowy look to the skin. You definitely can't see any sparkle or shimmer, but just suddenly, yeah, my skin's more glowy. Then, since I'm going to be using Baked, Balance, and Brighten as my powder foundation, I'm going to put on a concealer first. I'm just going to use my Multitasker Concealer from Rimmel because that's what's been working for me a lot lately. The shade is Sand. It's such a good little concealer. It's been working great alongside my other Rimmel products. But now I'm going to use it without going on top of like a Rimmel liquid foundation as I have been recently. Then we will just spread those dots, and you can use any concealer you like here. I just do recommend doing some kind of creamy concealer before a powder foundation. One day recently when I was doing a video, I like forgot and I had to go on top of my powder foundation. If that happens, that's a sign you're really into liquid foundation a lot. So I just kind of roughly blend that around with the smaller end of my e.l.f. Duo brush and then go in with the larger side to continue blending. Now, Baked, Balance, and Brighten is sort of the light to medium powder foundation coverage option that Laura Geller has. She also makes one called Double Take, and it's more full coverage. But I had some things I wanted to say about my Balance and Brighten foundation because I was sent one not that long ago. It was like in a little PR set that Laura Geller sent my way, as was this palette. But I've also noticed kind of like a formula change because I had been using my Baked, Balance, and Brighten in the shade Medium, and what they had sent me was Balance and Brighten in the shade Light. And I thought, okay, maybe that's the shade I should be using. This is what my normal medium looks like, and then this is what the light looks like that I was recently sent. I feel like they look really similar. Somehow when I do swatch the medium, I get just the slightest bit darker swatch. I'm not sure how it's all happening. Looking up close, I mean, there's light tones swirled in both. But another thing I noticed is that my old Balance and Brighten is much more firm in texture. This one, like I put a brush into this and I'm getting more like powdery kick up. It's softer. And I thought that was interesting, and it does deposit just a little more coverage than I'm used to seeing from this product on my skin. So yeah, be aware of that because some of us can have a Balance and Brighten on hand for a period of years because it does take a long time to work through that domed baked product. But the one I have now compared to one that I probably got like, I don't know, a couple years ago, definitely sensing more of a softness in the formula. Now, one thing I'll do real quick before I go in with that is I will just very on purpose set my under eye area. And I do have this powder from Laura Geller. It's the Baked Blurring and Setting Powder in Porcelain and Fair. And I'm just going to grab some of that with my under eye bullet brush and just use some of this light powder right on my under eye area and around my T-zone real quick. I'm nicely set, and now we're going to go in with our Balance and Brighten. Again, this is the shade Light. This is the more recent one I've been sent. I do have the Laura Geller angled kabuki brush. Use whatever brush you really like for a powder foundation product, but for me, I think this works really, really nicely with the Laura Geller stuff. It kind of hugs the contours of the skin. And again, I went into that. I can see like little powder on top. I'm really trying to not buff into my powder, but just lay my brush on top. And I'm going over about half the face here. And I'm just seeing more coverage than I was used to. And I'm wondering if the shade range might have just changed a little bit over the years. And light is now just a little bit darker than it probably was in the past. Anyway, dabbing around and then just kind of swiping, pressing, patting it on. Again, certain areas of the skin have concealer on, so we're not needing to buff over those zones. We're in more of a patting mode. I'm not even putting a lot of powder over that area, focusing it more elsewhere on the skin. But yeah, this is totally giving more coverage than it once did. It's not quite to the place of the double take, but it's giving a lot of coverage just because they've softened up the formula. I would love to hear if you've witnessed that as well. A lot of people say this about this product, but it does manage to look so natural on and doesn't really look like a heavy, thick powder foundation has been applied. But yet I do feel like I'm having nice coverage. So, I mean, Laura Geller knows what she's doing on these baked products. And this is kind of the OG of the whole line. Now, if you have this brush, you could continue kind of multitasking with that with other things in this palette, but I'll probably pull in some just certain brushes I like to use for different steps. So as far as what's in here, they put in the Baked Body Frosting in Tahitian Glow. That'll be the next step that I do. You can see it's swirled with a lot of light colors and maybe not quite as much bronze as one might need. I don't know. I have played with this a little bit on my skin and I'm familiar with Tahitian Glow. I actually do have the full size of the Baked Body Frosting. Incorporates a little more concentrated bronze. This like comes with the puff. You could swipe it on all over your body. Fun fact, I hit pan on one of those giant compacts back during my news days because I would always like want a little more color to my skin all over. And I can remember using that product a lot. But as you can see, I'm going into contour with this one. There's a lot of lightness in it. And it's perking up my skin tone a little bit. This would have to be one of the most forgiving bronzers you could put on because it's just super light. It's giving my skin a little bronze, a little glow. If you're a deeper skin tone though, I wish they could make this in an option with something in there that would be like one of the shades of Bronze and Brighten, something that could do a little more because are you seeing it's doing something, but it's very, very subtle and soft. And I think that's the one that's in. Yeah, this is the one that's also in this little face palette that I have, the one called Tropical Glow. And I have a little Tahitian Glow there, but it's got quite a bit more bronze in it. So maybe it's just luck of the draw. I mean, I know I've heard Laura say, like, the way things are swirled, no two are going to look exactly identical with their little swirl pattern. So maybe I just ended up with a really light one because the other two Tahitian Glows that I own certainly have a bit more bronziness in them. I'm getting now, you see a soft contour? So think about if you're my skin tone or lighter, you can see it, but it will be soft. Next, I want to talk about the baked blush that's in here. I love Laura Geller's baked blushes. This is the shade called Pink Buttercream. It's got swirls of like light pink and even a little bit of bronze, and you can definitely see some brighter pink coming through. Look at my solo Pink Buttercream that I really haven't had for all that long, maybe a year or so. Well, it's got the medium pink and some of the bronziness going through it. It doesn't really have those super bright pink tones. Oh, it does, but they're in very, very tiny little avenues in my product here. So this shows up actually kind of like a different looking blush on me. So I thought I'd point that out in case anyone else gets this palette and they're like, oh, Pink Buttercream looks brighter. It definitely looks brighter than my standalone blush, but I really, really like it. I so enjoy the way that comes off on the cheeks. It's pigmented, it's easy to throw on, it's just a really pretty tone. Just pick up everything and dab it on with your e.l.f. blush brush, or you could use that retractable brush if you can really control it. I adore that shade. It's again a little brighter than my other one, but I'm loving it. Next we have two highlights here. We have the iconic Baked French Vanilla, which is really like a brightener to the skin without being metallic and shimmery. Like it simply just casts light on certain areas and you don't look shimmery at all. It's super subtle and just a beautiful look. If you want skin brightening but not metallic shimmery highlight, you'll love that. But then they do give you a shimmery option down here, and that's the one called Portofino. So just to show you in a finger swatch, look how that is soft. If you're seeing any sheen, it's just the most barely there sheen in that one. And then Portofino is like, hey, check me out. I've got all the glow. I love that they're both in there because it really lets you maybe not just stick with one and get a ratio between the two that you really like. I'm gonna first go on with just baked French vanilla here because I want you to see what that's all about if you don't know. Okay, see how this is giving subtle brightness. It's just like turning the lighting on for your skin a little bit there, but you're certainly not seeing any shimmer whatsoever. So I'm kind of bringing it just straight down under where my eye is, and then I can carry it up too. You can brighten anywhere on your face that you want with that and not feel like it's going to attract any attention to fine lines or anything. But then you could say, hey, I want to look a little more dewy actually on the surface of my skin. Maybe I've been doing my full Laura Geller powder foundation routine and I'm thinking, let's really make it look like I don't have powder on. That's when you take just a little bit of Portofino on there. Do you see where I put it? No excess on the brush, and then buff that in. And it's not that Portofino has like a bunch of sparkly bits in it. It looks really natural too, but it's just going to give you more of a glow. See, there's where we only have French vanilla. There's where we added the Portofino. Just a small bit is all I do. I just touch my brush into it and then blend that out. It's beautiful. The combination of those two is a really great idea in a palette like this. So I'm feeling super good about those face products. I love the way everything came together. Again, the bronzer is not really like, I'm gonna chisel out my face with this type of bronzer. It's like, I'm gonna give my skin tone a little bit of a boost, maybe the softest ever contour. That's what that Tahitian glow is giving me. But know that you could get a palette where that swirl is a little bit different, and I would love any input from anyone else who has that product. And is it as light as mine, or is it a little bit deeper? But for right now, I'm just gonna do my brows, and then we'll come in and use those 3 little eyeshadows. So now my brows are done and I have eyeshadow primer on, and we have these 3 eyeshadows that are in here. So they're keeping it pretty simple. We have shades that I think I do recognize, having had them in other palettes, maybe 1 or 2 of these. We have the shade Oyster, which is highly, highly shimmery. It looks a lot like Portofino. They might not have even had to put that in there. Then we have Sunstone, which is this kind of like medium, soft beigey mauve. I don't know if you can even see the swatch on my finger, but I can see it if I look up close. And then the other shade is Almond, a brown with a satin finish. So obviously it's going to be kind of a simple, natural look, but that's what you're wanting when you grab for a palette like this, a full face palette. I'm going to go into Sunstone and get some of that medium mid-tone and just start popping that in my crease. I can see it. It's a really nice, easy crease shade. Just a little bit of rosiness in it. It's like if you just mixed soft, dusty rose and beige. Really, really easy, and don't forget you can integrate any of the other baked products into your eye look as well. If you want to put some Tahitian glow on the eye look, go for it. I would also take a little bit of the baked French vanilla and just use that as like my little underbrow highlight because it's not too shimmery and it just kind of blends the outer edge of your crease color really well. Then I just stay with this brush, or what I do, maybe I'll flat brush it with the Almond shade. This is a little bit deeper, cool brown, a little bit darker, and we'll just pat that on most of the lid. Yes, it is showing, it is pigmented, but keep in mind 2 things. It's not that dark, and there is a little bit of a satiny finish in it. So it's gonna look soft on the eyes, not real dramatic in a darkening sense. All right, so I've patted that all over my lid with the flat brush. I've kind of touched it to my crease. And then the next thing I might do is take a smaller brush and see if we can intensify the shade a little bit. So this is my small pointed brush going into Almond again, our darkest shade of the 3 shadows. And I'm just hitting the deepest part of my crease with that and seeing if we can sort of adjust that shade, bring it up and out maybe slightly. Yeah, I'm seeing it. Totally workable if you want to create some shape and lift, but it's certainly not super dark. So if you haven't even ever done this with your eyeshadow, this would not be a very intimidating shade to work with in this sense. See how easy this is? We're just literally putting it first in the deepest part of the crease. And then we're just like circular motion, pulling it up and out. It's very buildable and certainly creating the type of shadow look, which I'm sure this was by design for this palette, the type of shadow look that would pretty much work with anything. Then you could take your crease brush or any bare blending brush and just kind of go on the outside of that. Feel free to pull in more baked French vanilla if you think you need it on the edge to do additional softening. But that shade did its job real easily. I guess the final step might be to pull in that third shade now, the one called Oyster, which again is not a far cry from Portofino, but we're gonna get some of that on our shadow brush. Ooh, yeah, she's got a lot of lightness and brightness, and just pull a little bit in from the inside. We're really not coating the whole lid. We're just getting brightness here on like the inner third and just letting that sweep into the rest of the look. If you didn't want this much shimmer, again, use baked French vanilla. Use that as like an additional matte eyeshadow here if you want it. I just want you to see what these colors are like so you know what you would do or if you would even like this palette. Alrighty, there's that. If you like using shadow on your lower lash line, you could take the deepest of the three and kind of smudge it down below. That'd be fine. I'm gonna take one of my Laura Geller Kajal Longwear eyeliners that I love so much. If you are new to my videos, maybe you don't know about these, but these are great little shadow sticks that Laura Geller really makes in a number of deepened shades, whereas we see shadow sticks from a lot of brands in beautiful light to mid-tones. She makes some really nice deep shades in these, and it makes them great for a quick and easy liner, like your easiest eyeliner ever, and it already looks smudgy putting it on there. This is again the dark brown coal shade. It's got a little bit of shimmer, but all in all it's a deep brown. And I just take it over like 2/3 of my lash line. I kind of fade it out once I start getting past the iris of my eye, the inner part of the iris. It's just like so low effort, and these are always going to be creamier than your little stick eyeliners, I feel like. I've worn them on my lower inner rim. I've put them everywhere. I love them on the lower lash line because then they do lock in for all day staying power and they will not fade away like eyeshadow will. But yet they look smudgier than a skinny pencil. These are probably my primary way of lining my eyes these days. I've been much more infrequent with liquid liners, with other kinds of pencils. I just use these kinds of sticks. And Laura Geller's not the only brand you can pick them up from. You can look to Hard Candy. They have some good ones. I found dupes for some of the shades from Laura Geller from Hard Candy. Milani is making some that I've been testing, and to me it's seeming like maybe they don't have quite the staying power of the Hard Candy ones, but maybe in the ballpark. I've had good luck with my Color Tattoo stick from Maybelline, and then from other high-end brands, Bobbi Brown, Laura Mercier, Makeup Forever, they all make quality long-wearing shadow sticks. But hopefully Laura Geller does this again later this fall. It was definitely before the holidays. They put out a 7-piece set of these sticks, and they were all in nice rich tones, deep green, deep plum, the brown, the soft black, and a few others. And it was just a great set for those who want to really use those as I call, lazy liner. I'm going to pop on some mascara and a lip color real quick, and then I'll be back to give my final thoughts on this. Finished look, I got my mascara on. By the way, I'm pretty impressed by this mascara. It's my first time using it. It's the Rimmel Wonder Extension Lash Extension Effect Mascara, and it's kind of like oddly stretchy a little bit, the formula is. It's interesting, but it built on itself quite a bit. I probably could continue building on it. But yeah, to be continued with that. Plus the packaging is absolutely gorgeous. And then for lips, I did have a Laura Geller product for that. I have one of her Jelly Balm lipsticks in Figure Than Life. These are really creamy, moisturizing, still a lot of good pigment, like fully opaque lip color there. This is what it looks like. It's just this little like rounded off bullet. And to perfect the look a bit more, I grabbed a pinky toned lip liner. This is from Buxom. It's the shade Dangerous Dolly. And I didn't like fill in or do a lot with this. I just kind of went around my Cupid's bow to neaten it up. But yeah, this is my look. I'm loving the way the pink lip and that pinky blush coordinate. I feel like the bronzer actually, once the blush came on, the bronzer and blush kind of came together well, that subtle bronzer. But still, I think for the masses, the bronzer does kind of remain my one complaint about this palette. Again, for my skin tone, for people lighter than me, this this will be okay for just a subtle, quick and easy throw it on bronzer look. As a whole, this is a very hard to screw up palette. You've got a blush that really does show, it makes an impact, but you got highlighters that look gorgeous. Nothing's too sparkly, nothing's too flaky. The bronzer, if you got a soft one, you know, it's gonna be hard to make a mistake with that. And then these eyeshadows I thought were incredibly easy to work with, and yet still I've got enough depth to give me that lift on my eye. But it would be cool for her to have another version of this palette where she put in like a baked bronze and brighten, or a deeper tone of her baked bronze and brighten, because I know that does come in multiple options, and that way people could have a little deeper bronze than this. Or again, maybe my Tahitian glow just happens to be a whole lot lighter than other people's. As far as the palette itself, you do have a big mirror here, which is great for travel, and if you are like using this as your travel mirror, I can see this sitting up on top of a dresser and literally it will stay open and you could use that mirror. Is there some wasted space in the palette? Yes. I mean, we have some bare space in here, but still, I think any palette Laura Geller puts out kind of has to be made in a certain way to accommodate those baked shades, because remember, they're all baked on a terracotta tile. There's a fairly thick tile that's underneath every Laura Geller product. So you're not gonna see a lot of her stuff in a really flat, streamlined, small packaging design. So I get it. And this is very solid and I think very protective to the products inside. Another thing I do wanna mention, if you're not really as into the thought of having eyeshadow in a palette, I absolutely love the Cheek to Chic Tropical Glow Face Palette. Where can you even still get this, by the way? It is on Amazon in Laura Geller's storefront there, and it's around $40. But what this has inside, it has Tahitian Glow and Honey Dipped, so two different versions of her bronzer. Honey Dipped is a little more intense. She gives two blushes, Tropic Hues and Honeysuckle, and two highlighters, the French Vanilla and this Dulce de Leche that's even more intensely shimmery. And I love this palette. I love what's in here. I really like the way those tones come together on the face. You could use them as eyeshadows, even though they're not necessarily labeled as such. The reason why I bring that up is if you're one of those people who's thinking, I want to try more Laura Geller, it seems like a better value to get one of these palettes with several things in it than just buying one full-size pan. This is a good option too if you don't care so much about having multiple eyeshadows and would rather have multiple bronzers and blushes. But again, that's on Amazon. And in terms of which palette you're going to find a really good deal on, this one on Laura Geller's website. There are sales frequently. It's a really easy palette. You don't have to just use it with a Laura Geller powder foundation. I mean, the look came together nicely, but if you've got this in hand and you've got also some form of foundation or concealer, a mascara, a brow, and a lip product, you're pretty much set, right? Last night when I was looking at Laura Geller's website, this was discounted, and even some of the bundles that either paired this with a primer or paired this with Bake, Balance, and Brighten, or they paired it with a brush or different forms of the bundle. With the discount, it made this product plus other things less than the original usual price of this, which I thought was cool. And honestly, really crazy. I don't know how Laura Geller's able to have these sales so frequently, but I think maybe she's just trying to make her website the most appealing place to shop for her things. At the time I'm sitting here shooting this, they're still under the Memorial Day sale. And for example, this baked starter kit, not on sale, this retails for $69. It's down to $41.40 currently. This is not a sponsored video. I was sent the palette, but I purchased lots of Laura Geller things just on my own. I'm a fan of the brand, and that is a palette I will continue to get use of for any season, really. So thank you for your time, everyone. I hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know if you have any questions in the comments section, and I will see you again very soon. I love you. Bye.